TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. Israel is keen on becoming militarily self-sustainable in a move that aims to implement lessons learned from the two-year multi-front war. Jerusalem acknowledges its willingness to reach a security arrangement with Damascus. Syria's de facto President Ahmad al-Sharaa insinuates that the United States and Israel are terror regimes rather than him and his fellow Jihadis from Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. Israel continues to face threats from the Islamic Republic of Iran and its regional proxies. Nevertheless, since October 7 of 2023, the Ayatollah regime and its terror armies have sustained one defeat after another, despite extensive efforts and planning that aimed at realizing the destruction of the State of Israel. Speaking to Jerusalem's diplomatic corps, Netanyahu underscored that Iran's plan to launch its so-called Ring of Fire attacks on Israel has failed miserably, primarily because the Palestinian terror group Hamas had essentially jumped the gun when it launched its atrocities against the citizens of southern Israel on October 7th of 2023.
There was a plan to destroy Israel. It still exists as a challenge for them, but they actually had a practical plan. The plan was to attack us simultaneously. From this perspective, we can say that Sinwar jumped the gun, as it is said in English. He didn't wait and didn't coordinate the action that had to include a simultaneous invasion from Gaza, from the south, and also from the north, by Radwan forces. Nukbas from one side, and Radwan from the other side, and a tsunami of rockets and ballistic missiles against us. This was their maneuver. We saw at that very moment that Iran is rapidly and quietly advancing its nuclear weaponization program, as it is called. They have 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. A weapon wasn't there, but we knew that if we didn't stop it, within half a year or a year at best, they would have nuclear weapons. Therefore, we called in the cabinet and took a decision.
Prime Minister Netanyahu further recounted the complexities which Israel had to face over the course of the past 2 years of war, an astonishing reality in which Israel's allies rapidly turned from ardent support to political pressure and arms embargoes.
On the second day, I said that we would change the face of the Middle East. I meant that we would strike Hamas, Hezbollah, and also the other proxies, and ultimately also Iran itself. This is exactly what we did. After we concluded, which was really not easy because of great political pressures. After the majority of global countries stood by our side, it took merely a couple of weeks after they started to turn against us as a result of the Muslim minorities in their countries, the organized protests, the social media and the bots. All these things together brought about great pressure against us that was also expressed in a change of their policy, as you witnessed. It, of course, was expressed at its peak with an American embargo of weapons.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu referred to the Biden administration's explicit demand of Israel not to enter into the southern Gaza town of Rafah, claiming it would result in a massacre of Palestinian civilians, a speculative scenario at the time that ultimately proved false. As for Jerusalem, Netanyahu stressed it could not accept constraints imposed on it by Washington, since it would have rendered Israel a vassal state.
We entered because we said that if we do not preserve our freedom of operation, we would then, today and in the future, turn into a vassal state, and we could no longer have a right to exist.
Prime Minister Netanyahu went on to address Israel's policy shift, as part of which it is in the process of developing a fully independent defense industry.
Israel has shown itself to be not just a very powerful country, but an exceptionally powerful country. Now we need to keep increasing our military and security power. We are making an effort, which some of you will see in the countries you work in, to increase our own power in our armaments industries. We have the spirit, but we also need the material resources. The ability to produce our own defensive systems, including defense armaments and offensive armaments and other very sophisticated things. We must be as independent as we possibly can. That doesn't mean we can't form alliances.
Meanwhile, as the Damascus regime marked its one-year anniversary since the collapse of the Assad regime, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu highlighted that Israel was directly responsible for the fall of the previous regime.
Assad did not have a fighting army. It wasn't a Syrian army. He had an army of Hezbollah. Every time he got into trouble, Nasrallah would send him thousands, and sometimes tens of thousands, of fighters to rescue him. This was taken away. Iran wanted to send 2 airlifted divisions. We chased them away with our aircraft. There was no help from left and no help from the right, not from the west nor from the east, and he collapsed. The moment he collapsed, the axis collapsed. The land connection, this autostrada from Iran to Lebanon, was broken.
The Israeli Prime Minister continued by underscoring Jerusalem's resolve to guarantee its security from any and all threats, including any that may emerge from its northern neighbor in Syria. Turning to the Qatari capital of Doha, where the de facto president of the Damascus regime, Ahmad al-Sharaa, during the course of a Q&A session at the Doha conference, stressed that all countries, to include the United States, agree that Israel must withdraw from strategic territories it had seized since the fall of the Assad regime, all the while pushing back at Jerusalem's demands for a demilitarized buffer zone throughout southern Syria.
Israel has always said it fears attacks from the region, specifically southern Syria. But what will protect this area if not the Syrian army and security forces? I believe negotiations are currently underway, with the United States involved. All countries support an Israeli withdrawal to pre-December 8th positions and addressing legitimate security concerns, so that both sides can emerge safe.
Asked about his terrorist background as the top field commander of Al-Qaeda in Syria, namely Jabhat al-Nusra, as well as a leading affiliate of the Islamic State at some point, President al-Sharaa was offended by the allegation, clearly insinuating that he and operatives of Al-Qaeda or Islamic State are not the terrorists. Rather, Israel and the United States should be branded as such for their war against Islamist Hamas in the Gaza Strip, or Al-Qaeda and the Taliban in Afghanistan and or Iraq, insisting that those who were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan were all innocent civilians.
Saying that I was a terrorist and judging me as a terrorist is politicized. You know that there are many politicized opinions today. Terrorists, in my opinion, are those that kill innocent people, children, and women, and that use illegitimate means to harm people. If we try to extrapolate this description on several countries in the world, we find that the number of victims in Gaza, 60,000 people, most of them are innocent. We saw wars in Afghanistan, in Iraq. All of those that were killed were innocents. And it is the killers that describe others as terrorists. So I think that after 25 years, people are now more aware about who is a real terrorist and who deserves to be called a terrorist.
After clearly insinuating that both Israel and the United States are terrorists rather than Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State or the Taliban, President al-Sharaa addressed Washington's intentions to repeal the Caesar Act.
We have appealed to the United States and met with members of Congress several times to persuade them to lift the Caesar Act, which was originally enacted to hold the previous regime accountable for its crimes against the Syrian people. It should not be used today as a tool to starve the Syrian people again. This is understandable, and we have made good progress in this regard, reaching over 95%. The current U.S. administration under U.S. President Donald Trump supports lifting the sanctions on Syria. As you have all noticed, most countries in the world are following the same path.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. Please pray for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide, to include Christians as well as Druze and Alawites in Syria. Pray also for the peace of Jerusalem and the redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you an Erev Mevorach. God willing, we will see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.